They're not fighting together.
You must know you cannot win.
You're all here because there is nothing to return to.
All right, let's get this over with. Rebel Moon. Well, I'm gonna do some flip flopping here. I'm gonna give Rebel Moon a Child of Fire. I'm gonna give it a C minus instead of a B minus. I think the problem with me was that in my reviewing Aquaman, Lost Kingdom, and then Rebel Moon Part 1, I think I was kind of getting into the whole superheroes and Zack Snyder without being objective. So that's my fault. So I will give a C minus for the first part. Now let's get to part 2. It is better than part 1, but that's not saying a whole lot. In fact, the last reel, just the last 20 minutes of this movie, I was like, they fly now? That was my feeling when I saw it. I said, they fly now? Well, they sure do. So, what's happening in this? What I thought Rebel Moon was going to be was, I thought it was going to span planets. Now, Star Wars spans planets. We go to multiple planets. Even in Clone Wars, we're going across multiple planets. We're not doing that in Rebel Moon. We did go to a secondary planet in the first movie. On Rebel Moon Part 2, we're spending on time all on one planet. And I think Zach said he wanted to do a Part 3 someday or sometime. I'm not sure what he's got, if he's got an outline or what he's got. And then he said that the rated R versions, so we could see what happened to the admiral's head, because she beheaded the admiral, I think. Sofia Boutella. We don't see where the head goes to. I'm sure in the rated R version we'd see, but it's censored for the PG-13. So sometime in August, we'll see the two movies uncensored. So what's it all about? It's basically you got a planet full of farmers, and you have the evil empire trying to take over the planet for resources of grain and such. Now, I go back to the episode of Star Trek Enterprise in which a bunch of farmers were trying to provide things for the Klingons, but the Klingons were just being assholes. Did the Klingons really need the food that they provided? No. They just did it to show their power, and that was kind of hard. And Archer taught them how to stand up to bullies like the Klingons. So I would have to say that I like that episode of Star Trek Enterprise way more than Rebel Moon. I mean, if you add like an episode, if you took the episodes where they went to Onderon, the beginning of the Rebel Alliance in season 5, with Saw Gerrera, if you took the 2 episodes Clone Wars Season 5, and you took that with Star Trek Enterprise, that's basically all you need instead of Rebel Moon. But Rebel Moon is like rehashing that story. Because, in Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka, they were teaching these people how to defend themselves, how to fight. They weren't going to fight for them, but they were going to fight alongside them. And then in Star Trek Enterprise, the officers taught the people how to fight for themselves, so that there wouldn't be an incident between the Earth Starfleet, can't call it the Federation, and then Klingon Empire. But this is giant evil empire, and they're pushing around the farmers, and it's the beginning of the movie looked promising. It looked promising to see. The minute you get into Anthony Hopkins' narration, we see the big gunner ship. We see that the admiral, who was supposedly dead, but slowly resurrected in the second movie, in this movie. And we see the evil empire, we see the officers, and so far, so good. Then we get to the farming planet, And I'm a little bit confused as to what. There's a kid who's talking to these officers. Now, I'm a little confused. Is the kid a spy for the bad guys when he's talking to them on a secret comm channel? Or is he pretending to be a spy and he's working for the good guys? Is he just not telling them everything they need to know? I'm a little confused on that. If somebody wants to help me clarify that, because you see this kid, that's the kid that falls in love and kisses the girl at the end of the movie when they beat up the evil empire. But he's talking to this officer, the second in command, and he's telling him information and what's going on. But is he working for them? Or is he working for the farmers pretending to be a spy? Is he a double agent? I don't really remember. Anthony Hopkins as a robot shines. I mean, it's like a dog or a child, like stealing the show a bit. So he kind of reminds me of the robot from the Orville, Seth MacFarlane, a little bit. But it's like the same robot character, but with Anthony Hopkins' voice, right? With the deer antlers. So I mean, he's got the winning personality. And he got Sofia Boutella falling in love with the head farmer of the planet, okay, on the farming colony. So, and of course, like typical love stories, he sacrifices himself to save her, of course. Of course, I mean, there's a lot of cliches that kind of take me out of this. And honestly, like, did I care too much what happens to these characters? Not really. I mean, I have to care about them enough. I went from a D, watching about 40 minutes of this, then getting into an hour and 20 minutes, I got to about a C minus or a C. So I'll give you the final score. But the special effects were very good. I remember Angry Joe had after I did my review for A Child of Fire, Angry Joe had pointed out that the choreography looked really inconsistent. So I was paying attention to the choreography. It looks consistent in this one. So maybe they improved it. Because the stunt choreography was like out of place. So the highlights. We get into the flashbacks of all the heroes. The woman with metal arms. Jimon Honsao, the wizard Shazam. How he lost his army by the evil empire as a lesson to him. The woman who lost her family in a fire. Another person who Ray Fisher takes up arms and his army defends her, and then she works for Ray Fisher from the first movie. So there's all the characters, the main heroes, the unsung heroes who band together like a Justice League of sorts. They all explain their backstories, their history. And we do learn a bit about one character whose parents they committed suicide after seeing the destruction of their kingdom by bombardments by the evil empire. And Sofia Boutella was the Cratius, whatever her fucking name is. I can't remember. I Leviticus? I Claudius. I don't remember her fucking name. But she revealed herself to be that at the end, but she told that she worked for the Empire. She killed the princess, but of course, spoiler alert, the princess is still alive, even though we saw her dead. There was a king and queen of a planet somewhere, and they were supposed to be greeted with open arms, a formal ceremony, but the ceremony was improper, and he acted entitled, but then the emperor killed the king and the queen, kind of like the assassination of the king and queen that started World War I. And so the parents are killed, and then the princess is killed. And Sofia Boutella escaped to become a farmhand. And I gotta tell you, the lightsaber, or the lightning sword fight between Sofia Boutella and the Admiral, the Grand Admiral, was probably the best part of the movie. Where they're sliding down and having a fight. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Revenge of the Sith when the ship tips over. Now a door slams into him, one of these sliding doors, and then Sophia proceeds to behead him. We don't see him getting beheaded. I bet you it's going to happen in the rated R version, but that's okay. Then some of the farmers actually pilot planes and go and shoot at other planes. I don't know. I don't know what was going on. The flashbacks were better than the actual present day story. Um, the farmers had a plan to line the perimeter of their houses with the bags of grain so that the good guys couldn't take out the bag. Now, my feeling was that the evil empire doesn't really need the grain, bags of grain. They just want to put the people in their place. So even if they did line up the bags of grain, they could just do a bombardment from the sky and just destroy everybody, which they eventually try to do, but it gets thwarted by the good guys, of course. So they could have just done that from the start. If the bad guys wanted to kill all those people, they could have just done it from the sky and fuck the ground assault. Fuck the ground troops. Fuck the ground assault. If they knew what they were up to, they would have just killed them right there. Fuck the formalities. You know they're going to fight you back. Just kill them from the sky. Right? What's the point? And the good guys think that they can actually take down the evil empire. According to past stories like Star Wars, they have an endless supply of ships and tanks and fighter planes and soldiers with guns and laser guns. They have an endless supply. It's like when you fight the Koopa Troopa that comes out of the warp pipe, right? Or the bombs that come out of warp pipes. Another one just takes its place. They keep coming out of the same warp pipe when Mario fights them. They keep coming out of the same place. You fight one, another takes its place. They have an endless supply of army there. Whereas the farmers, let's say there's about, 300 people or 200 people, right? We don't see any more of a chemistry between the teenage girl, and the Anthony Hopkins robot. That was in the first movie. We didn't see it in the second movie. We see this teenage boy that I don't really remember from the first movie, but anyway, I don't know what he's about. I like the special effects. I like the look of the ships. I liked it when we went out into outer space. When we focused on the Grand Admiral with those rainbow tubes up his ass as he was being resurrected. I liked the soldiers with the masks that were serving the Admiral. But the Admiral's a dummy. He doesn't have enough common sense. And he should have realized that Sophia Bautella and the boyfriend, the great farmer, they went on a ship to go all the way up to the mothership. Of course they did. Of course they fucking did. Where was this fucking Admiral that he wasn't paying attention to Sophia Bautella the whole fucking time? Oh, they're on the ship. Well, that's not possible. How'd that happen? Because you weren't paying attention the last 20 minutes or the last 40 minutes of the movie. I mean, she went up there, she snuck into the ship and then got in there. I don't know. That's just how it was. The plot got away from the characters, I think. And yet, did I have fun with this? Well, it was better than the first movie. I'll say that. I'm kind of wrestling with this as I'm actually doing this. I'm thinking, I like the fighter planes. And then you had an alien. Where was this alien? There was an alien creature, humanoid, that looked like something, a Nautilin from Star Wars. The ones with the spiky heads and sort of the textured square patch back of their heads. I don't think you'll know what I'm talking about, but they're like these big aliens with no noses. There's all kinds of aliens in Star Wars, but it looked like one of those guys with the spiky horns around his face. And so he was one of the fighter pilots. He had other fighter pilots. It just felt out of place. That felt out of place, but I liked looking at it. The flashbacks, the beginning of the movie with Anthony Hopkins narrating it, It was fine. The farming stuff was boring. I did like the relationship between the young boy and the Asian woman. Uh, it was a cool relationship. And she dies, of course, because she loses her arms and she gets stabbed. And I like that part where everybody stops to mourn the dead woman, even though there's a battle going on. Like, there's still fighting going on. You still need to go out there and fight, you know? Don't stop to mourn. Don't stop. It's kind of like that some of those cop shows where they want to call the paramedics. No, you need to contain the terrorist threat. Then call the paramedics. The paramedics are not coming if there's a terrorist threat. There's a terrorist threat that's escalating. You need to mourn for this woman later. You know, bury the dead later. You got to fight first. That's all that your mind can go to. A soldier can understand that. A police officer can understand that. Most of us would not understand that. But when somebody gets killed and there's still a threat out there, your primary goal is to take out the threat, which is rather pointless. I think this movie would have done far better if all those stupid farmers had packed their stuff and moved off that planet to a more fortified planet. Like in Star Wars EU, Bastion, it was a fortified planet that the Sith could not infiltrate by normal means. They had to like sneak in a couple of guys, but they could not take ships over there and just start like killing the planet because there were defenses. So I'm sorry, maybe the farmers have a sacred rule and right, but these motherfuckers in their ships are gonna kill you. Okay, pack your stuff and leave and find another place to go. That's just the way it is. Sorry to tell you that. I mean, you had to think about that, right? So the third movie, if it ever comes out, is supposed to focus on the princess. I don't know, and I don't really care. So I'm going to give a score right now. What am I going to give this for Rebel Moon? A solid C, needs significant improvement, and couldn't be better said. Yeah, this was not a terrible movie. It was not a great movie. I'm sure Angry Joe would probably rate it lower than this, but I'm going to give it a C. I was going to give it a C+, but I don't think... I just thinking about it over in my head. Everything was kind of predictable. The boyfriend dying, Sophia crying, just the idiocy of the Grand Admiral who couldn't see that Sophia Bartella was in the big ship and was going to take it out. And I like the giant head in the ship, but honestly, what was that going to do? So that's it. I'm glad this is over. When and if those damn rated R versions come out, I'll tell you if it's any better.